What's up guys, Schmidt here, welcome back, and today, the Modern Warfare beta has concluded. So today, I'm going to give you guys my first thoughts and impressions on the Modern Warfare beta. Got a good solid 4 days to be able to play it over on PlayStation 4. I got to play it a good amount, so today I'm going to be giving you guys my first thoughts about the game after the first weekend of the beta. I got a pretty good list of things I like, pretty good list of things I don't like, as well as some feedback on how to hopefully fix some of those things. So anyway, it's a pretty good list, so let's get right into it. First of all, the weaponry in the game, fantastic. Love the weapons, some of the dopest weaponry as far as how it shoots, how it feels, the sounds of the guns, everything. Some of the best we've ever had in Call of Duty. It's phenomenal. The guns all sound great, they feel very rewarding. This is some of the most rewarding kills have felt in Call of Duty probably ever. I'm serious, like just a single kill feels so good every single time you get one. I love that about this game. The guns feel amazing. On top of that, the streaks are also really dope. Now, we didn't get to use a lot of them, at least in weekend 1 of the beta. We'll probably unlock a few more here in weekend 2, but still not all of them. But the streaks are dope. Calling in the cruise missile just basically is a Predator on steroids. The animation for that's super dope. The chopper gunner is really awesome, just like the one from Modern Warfare 2. The Harrier returns in the form of the VTOL jet, and the streaks rip. They go in. Big fan of the streaks. They're awesome. Next up, the hit registration. The IW hit reg is back. It's so good. It's so clean. Feels so nice. There were some times where it was a little imperfect. I'm going to pin that on it being a beta, and hopefully some of those things will get tuned out. It'll still never be perfect, but as far as some of the inconsistencies I did have with it, which weren't very many, I'm going to kind of attribute that to the beta. Now, talking about the beta itself and how well it performed, as far as connection and crashes go, this was probably one of the better betas as far as that we've ever had. Now, the first few hours when I played, there was a decent amount of them. I crashed quite a few times, got frozen out of the game quite a few times. But after that, I think I had a total of 3 or maybe 4 disconnections from the game after that. It was so good after the first couple hours. Next up, animations. All the animations in this game are dope. The reload animations, the swapping animations, mantling and climbing, like all the animations that your character makes in this game with the guns, with all sorts of things, looks phenomenal. They did a really good job on that. Next up, time to kill. This is a really good feeling time to kill, honestly. A lot of people, like I said, attributed it to more of a ghost time to kill. I don't really feel it. I feel like it's in a really good spot. It feels like a really nice time to kill. One that's very rewarding and also not really drawn out or anything. Another thing I like about this game, the combo of the speed and the pacing. So prior to Infinite Warfare, every Infinity Ward game felt so slow, so clunky. As far as whenever you tried to do something as far as moving, mantling something took like 10 minutes. You couldn't really get around the map really quickly. All Infinity Ward games just felt so much slower, like you were so much more restricted on what you could do. This game felt really good, and it felt like you could do things really quickly. You could get around the map quickly if you wanted to, but it really gave you a lot of options as far as how you could move, get around the map, how you could play. And I'm a big fan of this new feature, the Super Sprint. I think I talked about this a little bit in the Gunfight Alpha. Love Super Sprint, love the addition of that. I like the pacing and how quick you're able to get your characters around the map. Next up, big one, the Gunsmith. Holy balls, this thing's awesome. This is basically the new space to put your gun together, put on the attachments, basically design your gun how you want it, and it's phenomenal. We didn't have it open to the fullest extent. Obviously in the beta, there were weapon level caps. I think some at like 30, some at 25, some at 20. So I'm judging each of them was capped at about halfway of what they're going to have. And this thing was awesome. You could design your guns in so many different ways. You could make them perform well or worse at certain play styles depending on what you pick. All that stuff is really cool. Big fan of the Gunsmith. Next up, the classic feel of the game. I talked about this a little bit in some of my Modern Warfare streams that I did over the weekend. It is scary to me, like literally scary, how classic this game feels, how much it feels just like games that I played 7, 8, 9 years ago in Call of Duty. I'm playing this game and it's giving me that vibe of those old games, and it's playing a lot like those old games. The maps are designed like those old games. It's crazy to me how accurate they got this as far as feeling like one of those classic Modern Warfare games. I don't know how they did it. I didn't think there would ever be a way that they could get back to that spot, but they did. So if you guys are looking for a much more classic Call of Duty experience, similar to the ones of the older games, I think this is going to be the game for you. Next up, the create a class system. This kind of goes with Gunsmith, but kind of not. I just like how you can design your class where there's not as many limitations, and at the same time, it's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. You get up to 5 attachments / perk, whatever you want to put on each of your weapons. It's not a pick 10 where you have to pick and choose what you want. You get 3 perks, you get a lethal and a tactical, and that's your class. Simple, efficient, not very limiting. Next up, the current mini-map. I know there's been a huge mini-map debacle, but overall, I like where it's at now. I wouldn't be mad if they brought the red dots back, but I'm okay with where it's at right now. I'm content. If it got left right here, I would be okay with it. As long as we have that mini-map up at all times, at least showing teammate direction, I'd be okay with that. I'm not going to talk about this for 10 minutes like I could, but I'm okay with where the minimap is at right now. Can't complain. Next up, talking about some of the maps, I love the parkour on the maps. A lot of these maps have different areas and ways you can climb and get on different roofs and stuff that maybe you wouldn't think you could get on, but you can. Really cool. It's some of that classic Modern Warfare style map feel. Really big fan of that. Next up, some of the other game modes, including the objective game mode. It's something I avoided for a day or two playing too much TDM, but as we talked about with the beta, there was a little bit of camping, so being able to play the objective game modes got people to move around a little bit more, and it was nice. And for the first time in a while, I actually liked the objective game modes. I haven't really liked domination in a Call of Duty game probably since the old Modern Warfare game. It's just always played too chaotic, not really a lot of fun, but I like Dom in this game. There's no halftime, which I've been praying would happen in domination for a long time now. And surprisingly, I really liked Headquarters. Headquarters was a mode that I never really played, but it was a lot of fun to play in this game, and Cyber Attack was really dope as well. Kind of a variant on Search and Destroy. It was a really good game mode. Also, the Night Vision playlist was cool. Not really for me, but it was a really cool idea, something really different just to change things up. So far on the game modes they brought in the game, really like them, keep bringing them. They're really different, they're fun. Next up, the amount of settings. Not really gameplay oriented, but dude, the amount of settings in this game to be able to change all kinds of different things, big fan. I mean, to be able to get to the point to where you can change the sound of the hit markers back to a more classic feel, that's so cool. And these are just the settings in the beta. I mean, there was a ton of different settings. We could change our ADS sensitivity, which is something that people are asking for after gunfight. A lot of good settings, and this is only the beta version. I'm sure there will probably be more when launch comes. Really like the amount of settings. Next up, the new field upgrades. Really big fan of them so far. As we unlock more of them, I'll have to wait and see how some of them work, because we only got up to 3 in this weekend in the beta. We got to see the barricade, the munitions box, as well as the recon drone. But overall, I like the idea of them. It's the idea from Black Ops 4 to where they have those small little abilities that you can do. So like the munitions box is essentially the crash pack that you throw out and you get more ammo. It's that idea, but not done in an annoying way to where you're getting hit by a seeker drone or a mesh mine or something. They're really just much more tactical, more team-oriented field upgrades. Overall, I like the idea, and so far from the ones I've seen, they're just fine. And lastly, probably my favorite thing about this entire beta, we can change our display names. Now, this doesn't really have to do with Modern Warfare, I think, necessarily. This is more of an overall Activision thing, but at least in Modern Warfare, you can change your display name when you play the game. This is so dope. So essentially, Modern Warfare goes off of your Activision forum name that you can change on the website an unlimited amount of times. You can change it to whatever you want, which is so awesome. It doesn't go off of your platform gamer tag. It's whatever you want it to be. Big fan of this, even though it doesn't really have to do with Modern Warfare. I just really like this feature. But anyway, a lot of good positives, a lot of things I like. Now let's get into some of the things I don't like about the beta. Some of these are going to be bigger than others. Some of these are going to be pretty small little things that I'm sure they're going to fix. But anyway, let's get right into them. First thing I don't like about this game, trading. Why is kill trading in this game? Never in Call of Duty has anybody been for kill trading. It's dumb. It's stupid. It shouldn't be in Call of Duty. It's so awful. I hate it. It probably happened more to me than I think I saw from anybody else. A lot of people were saying it only happened to them a few times. I was upwards of 25, 30, and I'm not stretching that. Kill trades are ridiculous. They shouldn't happen. I want to see these removed. Next up, something that I kind of talked about in the pluses with all the parkouring. But overall, as far as mantling, it's pretty broken because it seems like you have to be so precise, and there's things that I should be able to climb up on, like little simple things like a barrel that they just don't let me, and I don't understand why. And then you look at it a precise way and then it lets you. It needs to be a little more free on the mantling and a little easier on the mantling. There were just flat out things I should have been able to climb as a soldier in the military that I was looking like a 3-foot tall fat kid. I couldn't climb anything. Next up, I want to talk about some of the weapon balance. So overall in this game, the weapon balance was actually pretty good. However, there were some outliers. First of all, 2 guns that have to get nerfed: the M4 and the MP5. Dear God, these guns, if there's anything, any of the guns in this game that were unbalanced, it was these 2 weapons. The M4 has no recoil, high damage, the damage does not drop off, the fire rate's good, the clip size is good, you put pistol grip on it, it basically gets up in the time of an SMG, just too good of a weapon. This gun needs to be nerfed, it needs to have some kind of damage drop off, maybe a little recoil added on it would be nice too. But this gun won people gunfights, both it won me gunfights and it won other people gunfights. This gun is so insanely good, and it's the first gun in the game you unlock. Nerf the M4. It is unbelievably good. Also, the MP5. As an SMG, this thing rips, but the problem with it is it rips at AR range too. This thing's range really needs to be brought down. It just beams at AR ranges, SMG ranges, you name it. This thing is insane. And on top of that, it doesn't have any recoil. The MP5 is ridiculous. At the very least, the range this thing does damage at needs to be brought back, because the fact that it can hit at AR ranges is just not okay. All right, getting away from the weapons, getting into something here with the time to kill. I said the time to kill in this game is really good, but there's one part of it that's not, and that's headshots. Headshots in this game are way, way too powerful. Imagine playing a normal Call of Duty, but every single person has high caliber on. That's kind of what it's like playing with these headshots in Modern Warfare. They're too good. Now, you might be thinking, look, A, it's meant to be more realistic, which I guess I can kind of give you, but I still think they're too good. And secondly, people say, well, look, if you can hit headshots, you should be rewarded with that faster time to kill. And to a certain extent, I agree, but the problem with headshots is most of the time when they're earned, they're not earned because of aim, they're earned because somebody got flinched up into the head. That's where the vast majority of headshots are earned in Call of Duty, is due to flinch. And so essentially, you're punishing the person that's aiming better and putting the better shots on, and punishing them because the enemy they're shooting is flinching up into their head and getting a faster kill. I think headshot lethality needs to be brought back so much. It's way too good. Next up, character model display. Now, what I'm talking about specifically is when you're looking at an enemy and seeing what they look at and where their body's facing, it's not accurate. I can't tell you how many people I walked up, saw their back, saw the side of their character or whatever, and thought that I had an advantage on them because they shouldn't be able to see me, but then when I watch the kill cam, they're looking right at me the whole time. This would happen when people would run by me, so they'd be running by me perpendicular, they'd be running across as I'm facing them, and the side of their bodies to me, so they should have no angle to see me, but when I watch the kill cam, I'm dead center in their point of view. Don't know what's going on here. The character models need to be fixed so they're accurately displaying what the enemy's seeing, because there were times where I thought I had an advantage and the kill cam just showed something totally different than what their character was showing. Next up here on the list, spawns. Abysmal. Not going to get too much into this because I don't have to explain much. The spawns were not good in this beta. There were some times where they made sense, they acted like they should, but there were way too many times. There were times where I legitimately spawned inside of somebody. Just can't happen. Spawns were not good. They need a massive improvement. They need to be more consistent. Probably one of my bigger complaints, and one of the bigger complaints that I saw around the community with this beta. The spawns were just not good. They need to be fixed. Next up, the sounds in this game. I talked about how good they were, but there's one issue with some things. A lot of them are too loud, and especially the score streaks. Sorry, the kill streaks in this game. So many of the streaks were way too loud, especially at the end when people started getting the support helo, which is the Pavlo, or the VTOL jet, which is the Harrier. Those things were way too loud. Took up the entire sound on the map. You couldn't hear a single thing. If a support helo is going to be on the map, I have to be able to hear something else besides that thing. That's just ridiculous. So the sound's really good in this game, don't get me wrong, but some of the things need to be brought down as far as volume, and especially the streaks. Next up, some of the footstep inconsistency. There were times where I could hear footsteps plenty clear, and there were times that somebody would run right behind me and I'd never hear them. Probably just something that's a bug and a pretty easy fix that they can clean up. Totally fine, I expect it in the beta. But just a criticism, there were times where footsteps should have been audible and they weren't. And also, I think footsteps are a little too loud for enemies. I mean, I can hear people coming from miles away, and in a game where it doesn't have dead silence, it has it as a field upgrade, but not as a perk. I think they need to be brought down a little bit. I mean, I can hear everybody from every direction, including my teammates. There needs to be some kind of change up here with the footstep balance. They sound really good. They're clear as day. I just think the balance of it needs to be changed up a little bit. Next up, I talked about this with connections to where in the beta they seemed really good, but there's no ping bar. I'm assuming this is coming in the full game. Hopefully, it better be, but we need a ping bar. I need to know what my connection is when I need to look. Next up, some of the inconsistent visibility and some of the name tags as well. There were just times where visibility just wasn't consistent. There were times where things were way too dark, some things way too light. I know this is something they addressed and that they're going to be working on. Just one of my criticisms. And also the name tags. There were times where these things should have popped up on enemies and they just weren't. Another little bug that probably just needs to be touched up. Next up, Scoreboard Info. The scoreboard info just makes no sense. And I'm talking about when you pull it up mid-game. So in TDM, it showed kills and assists. In Domination, and I believe also Headquarters, it showed kills and deaths. That was it. At the very least, this needs to be reversed. In TDM, you need to be able to see your kills and deaths. And then in Domination Headquarters, you need to be at least seeing kills and then objectives. I think overall it needs to be broadened out to where you can see three or four different things. I think in all the game modes, you should be able to see your kills and deaths and then throw on top of that your objectives and then maybe your assists. But there was just a lack of info on the scoreboard when you pulled it up. And in some cases, in some of the game modes, just not the right info at all. The info nobody cares about. Next up, another thing I didn't like, some of the tacticals in this game. And I think part of it has to do with being the counter perk. So the stuns and the flashes in this game, I feel like need to be brought back just a little bit. Probably more so the flashes. I didn't think the stuns were horrible, but the flashes were crazy. And the counter perk to this, Battle Hardened, just isn't really that good. I feel like it needs to be brought up a little bit more so to the effective tac mass, because if I were to be running this perk, I'm running this in my perk 3 spot instead of 5 other perks I think there is in the 3 slot. Like, it needs to be protecting me from these things if I'm going to run it as a perk. It can't be this 5-10% reduction that it felt like. It didn't feel that good. Next up on this, the streaks don't wrap. So kill streaks in this game, they don't wrap. Once you get to your highest kill streak, so say you have the UAV, the cruise missile, and the chopper gunner. Chopper gunner's at 11. Once you get to that, you can't run back through it in the same life and then get UAV, cruise missile, chopper gunner again. You're done getting streaks until you die, which I think is pretty whack. If somebody's going to go on that streak twice in one life, especially in Modern Warfare, where there are kill streaks and things like that, like, let them do it. I don't see the point in this. Finally, a couple of my last criticisms about this beta. The whole minimap debacle. Again, like I said, I'm good with where the minimap is at right now, but I think the last thing that we should have to be arguing about throughout the entire weekend of a beta is where the minimap's at. It shouldn't have even been touched. When there's 85% feedback to bring the minimap back how it was in all of these polls that I saw across Twitter, it probably just needs to be brought back so we can focus on other things in the game. There shouldn't be this whole debacle about this thing. There was never an issue with the minimap. It didn't need to be changed, and the fact that we spent the majority of this whole weekend with the beta going over a minimap is just ridiculous in my opinion. And lastly, I'm not going to go too much into this because I'm going to make an entire other video about this. Some of the camping in the game. Now, to a certain extent in this, there's nothing the devs can do. It's just how people are going to play it. It's just certain play styles for people. Not a lot you can do with camping. It's just going to happen in Call of Duty. But I do feel like there are a few things in this game that could maybe encourage movement a little bit more. Again, I'm going to talk about this in an entire separate video, but it was something that kind of made the beta frustrating. I think this is something that's going to work itself out once people learn maps more and just overall get more accustomed to the game. I feel like it's just something that's going to work itself out. But anyway, that's going to do it for my first impressions of the Modern Warfare beta. Overall, I like this game, and I feel like it has immense potential. There's definitely things I don't like and things that I want to see adjusted, but overall, I'm pretty happy with what I played over this first weekend. The beta was a lot of fun. Modern Warfare is fun to play. It's an exciting game. It's a throwback to what classic Call of Duty was, so if you like classic CODs, I have a really strong feeling you're going to like this game. However, maybe if you're some of the people that are big into the jetpacking, big into more of the cracked out flying movement, pulling the left trigger on the Maddox 400 times just to, get your crack going, wear out your G Fuel energy, something, then maybe this might not be the game for you. I don't really know. I think overall, if people are willing to adjust to the different pace of this game, going back more to a classic style, then I think it'll be enjoyable. Like I said, for the people that are just in for Call of Duty for rapidly pulling the left trigger on the Maddox 400 times, and they think that, running dexterity, fast hands, whatever you want to call the sprint out perk, as well as quick draw is going to bail you out of sprinting around like a jackass, it's not going to happen in this game. This is a classic COD. It feels a lot like a classic COD, which is pretty scary. I don't know how they hit on that so accurately, like I said. But overall, it brings a lot of new things, a lot of new exciting things, a lot of things that make this game really fun. Overall, I have pretty high impressions of this game. I have high hopes for where it's going to go in the future. Like I said, I think it has a lot of potential, but they've got to hit on some of these things. Obviously, there's a lot of things yet to see to where this COD is going to be as overall as a game. Like I said, I don't think we've seen more than probably 15% of the game. There's still so much more content we have to see. There's still microtransactions and things we have to see. We still have a campaign and Spec Ops that we haven't seen, a rumored Battle Royale we haven't seen. There's so much more of this game to go. But overall, as far as the multiplayer beta goes from what I played here in the first weekend, it was a lot of fun. I had a good time. I'm very excited to play more of this game. Anyway, down below in the comments, let me know some of your thoughts on the Modern Warfare beta from what you played. Did you like the beta? Did you not like the beta? What are some things you would like to see changed here for weekend 2 or potentially the launch of the game? Let me know all of that down below in the comments. But anyway, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed, make sure to smack the schmidt out of that like button down below. And if you guys are new to the channel and looking forward to more video game content, you guys are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button down below as well. And turn those notifications on so you guys know when those videos go live. Hopefully you guys all have a good one. I will see you guys on another video. So long, everybody.